Today's video is brought to you by Vinyl Moon. Vinyl Moon is the all-in-one deluxe vinyl discovery. Every month they press awesome music on beautiful colored records and send them right to your door. Join today with discount code Vinyl Eyezz to get 10% off. Alright, now today we're talking about Japanese pressings and why they're so special. Hey friends, welcome back. So, have you ever wondered why some collectors are obsessed with finding the vintage Japanese pressing of their favorite album? Well, I wondered this myself, and after doing some research online, I wanted to share with you guys what I found out. But real quick before we get to that, today's song of the day is Everybody Wants to Rule the World by Tears for Fears. And if you have a suggestion for a song of the day as well, post in the comments down below and you might see it in a future video. Alright, now according to this article on rarerecords.net, there are several reasons why people seek out Japanese records that were pressed from the late 1950s through the 1980s. The first reason is that back then, the quality control of their record pressing factories were usually better compared to their US counterparts. And that's because they tended to press records in smaller batches than they did in the West. The Japanese plants would rather have a few hundred pressings that sounded really good than have thousands of pressings that sounded just average. So basically, the science behind this is that every time a record is stamped, its sound quality degrades a little bit. So essentially, less is more. The fewer records you press, the better they're going to sound. So small batches are ideal, and that's something that the Japanese labels figured out very early on. Now, in addition to their better sound quality, many collectors have also mentioned that compared to other records, Japanese vinyl tends to have very little surface noise and overall sounds very quiet. And there's actually three reasons for this fact. The first is that the Japanese plants tended to use virgin vinyl, or brand new vinyl pellets, instead of recycled vinyl pellets. And when you make a record with these new vinyl pellets, the sound quality on the finished record is much more appealing and quieter overall. So this is why many collectors today seek out albums that were pressed on virgin vinyl. And I'm sure you've heard that term before. Now, the second reason the Japanese records are quieter is because after the record was pressed, the Japanese labels would also use high quality poly inner sleeves, which are a soft plastic, instead of the standard paper sleeves. Now, the paper sleeves would have been much cheaper, but also more likely to scratch the records. So yet again, the Japanese thought of everything, and they just didn't skimp on quality. And it's details like that that separated them from the flock. Now, the final reason Japanese records were so quiet was that in the 1970s, JVC, the Japanese electronics company, invented a new plastic compound which they named super vinyl that allowed records to be more durable, have less surface noise, and have fewer clicks and pops compared to regular vinyl. So this compound helped to improve their already awesome sound quality even more. And as a side note, this is why in 1977, Mobile Fidelity Sound Lab started working with JVC and their super vinyl formula in order to press their new Original Master Recordings line of records, which today is legendary for their quality. So even back in the day, MoFi knew that the Japanese were doing incredible things with the vinyl record format, and they wanted to be a part of that. Now, speaking of vinyl compounds, the Japanese company Toshiba also invented one of their own called Everclean vinyl, which was around from 1958 to 1974. This compound gave the records a deep red kind of crimson color and also helped them to resist static electricity. And with less static building up in the grooves, the records themselves were going to have fewer clicks and pops. So Everclean vinyl was yet another successful invention by the Japanese, and back in the day you could find these beautiful red records in those crates right alongside these standard black vinyl versions. Now, speaking of beautiful records, I wanted to show y'all one of the newest releases from today's sponsor, Vinyl Moon. This is volume 56, and it's called Hello Real Life. As you can see, it's on gorgeous deep blue and orange marbled vinyl with black shrapnel kind of peppering around the edges, which looks really cool. And also, all the artwork on this release is from Philip Igamnov, who I think did a great job creating this sort of sci-fi comic book feel to both the covers and the liner notes, which complement the music very well. And speaking of the music, that's also really good, with my favorite tracks on this record being Redwoods by Loon Rose and Hold Me Down by Spencer Jensen and The Fever. So like I said, if you want to check out Vinyl Moon for yourself, their link will be in the video description down below. Alright, now getting back to Japanese records, another important feature of these albums was their obi. Now, what exactly is an obi? Well, literally translated, it means sash. And basically, these sashes were little pieces of paper that wrapped around the album cover, usually on the left side, and contained information about that particular release. They served an important purpose because the Japanese labels wanted to keep all of the original English artwork on the covers without drastically changing anything, but they also wanted the Japanese public to learn more about these records in their native language. So the Obi strip was really the perfect solution. Now essentially, since these were just strips of paper, most of them got lost or were thrown away shortly after opening the record. And that's why nowadays Japanese vinyl, especially rare vinyl, with the Obi strip included, can definitely fetch a much higher price tag. Also, another key reason why many people like Japanese records in the first place is because of their rarity. Collectors, in general, tend to seek out objects that are more rare, and the more rare they are, usually the more collectors want to own them. And as I said earlier, since many Japanese record labels only pressed a few hundred copies, that makes actually owning one a pretty special experience. Now, as far as my collection goes, I currently don't own any Japanese records because, as I just mentioned, they are pretty rare to come across in the US. But now that I've done my research and I know a little bit more about them, I would love to find one either online or in the crates after this whole thing is over that's not crazy expensive, and that way I could experience one of these really cool records for myself. That'd be really awesome. And the last thing I want to mention is that the future of Japanese vinyl could look very bright again because, according to this article from NPR, Sony, after a 30-year hiatus, has started pressing vinyl once again at their factory in Japan. So when it comes to the vinyl format, we could very well see new innovations coming from Japan in the future. But only time will tell. Now, what do you guys think about Japanese pressings? Do you go out of your way to find them, or not so much? Also, if you know any other cool facts about these records that I didn't mention in this video, please drop a comment down below because it's always fun to learn new things. And also, if you guys love turntables and vinyl record stuff in the first place, just like we do, feel free to subscribe and hit the bell notifications so you won't miss out on the new videos. And most importantly of all, friends, have a fantastic day, stay safe, and keep spinning that vinyl.